I'd like to call the meeting to order on the evening of September 3rd. Council members, please stand. Or everyone, please stand. Anyone have any special intentions? Seeing none. I'd like to introduce, as leading the prayer today is going to be Father Paul Clark. I decided, and I thought it was a good idea, to invite members of the community, our community of faith within Kenner, to lead the prayer at each meeting. So I think that'll be an interesting and different change. So I hope you enjoy it. Father Paul, if you can speak, lead the prayer.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to lead this prayer, and thank you, Mr. Mayor, and so many of the council persons who were with us today as we dedicated and blessed the new educational facilities and school at St. Elizabeth Ann Seton on the same piece of property as Divine Mercy Parish, right there on Joe Yenny Boulevard and Salentini Parkway. So thank you all so much for being there, and it's my honor to share this prayer. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, amen. We have come, O Lord, Holy Spirit, we have come before you, hampered indeed by our many and grievous sins, but for a special purpose, gathered together in your name. Come to us, be with us, and enter our hearts. Teach us what we are to do and what ought to concern us. Show us what we must accomplish in order that with your help, we may be able to please you in all things. May you alone be the author and the finisher of our judgments, who alone with God the Father and his Son possess a glorious name. Do not allow us to disturb the order of justice, you who love equity above all things. Let not ignorance draw us into devious paths. Let not partiality sway our minds, or respect of riches or persons pervert our judgment. But unite our hearts to you by the gift of your grace alone, that we may be one in you and never forsake the truth. As we are gathered together in your name, so may we in all things hold fast to justice tempered by mercy, that in this life our judgment may never be at variance with you, and in the life to come we may attain to everlasting rewards for deeds well done. Through Christ our Lord. Amen. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
Mayor Zahn, can you please lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. That's interesting.
Madam President, you have a quorum this evening. In accordance with Council Resolution Number B14550, please be advised that all cellular telephones, pagers, beepers, and other devices of this nature must be deactivated or silenced throughout the council meeting. Do we have any resolutions, motions, or other items from the floor this evening? Seeing none, we'll move on. Madam President, I have received a request to amend the agenda this evening to remove item 3A from the consent agenda and place it under item 14's items removed from the consent agenda. I have a motion by Councilmember Segure, seconded by Councilmember Hayes, to amend the agenda this evening. Council members, please vote. Well,
Councilmember Wilmot
Okay.
would like to speak.
Madam Clerk, I'd just like some clarity on it. We're going to move item 3A to where?
item 14, which is items removed from the consent agenda.
And does that have any procedural issues associated with it when it's removed?
You're not actually removing it. You're just removing it from the consent agenda and placing it under item 14 so that it can be placed on there for discussion or further action.
So it won't necessarily be voted on at that point? It may or may not?
You take it up at that juncture in the meeting, and I've also received a request to change the order, so we'll be taking it right after we place it under 14.
Okay, who asked for this motion?
Councilmember Segure.
Okay, then I'm opposing it.
Okay. All right, any other discussion on amending the agenda? Council members, please vote. I have a motion that passes 6-1. Councilmember Wilmot is opposed. Madam President, I've also received a request this evening to change the order of business to take item 14A at this time in the meeting. I have a motion by Councilmember Segura, seconded by Councilmember Hayes, to change the order of business. Any discussion? Council members, please vote. Madam President, motion passes 6-1. Councilmember Wilmot is opposed. Item 14 is items removed from the consent agenda. Item 14A is previously item 3A, which is application number 2178-19, Kenner United Incorporated, to hold a public gathering on September 28, 2019, from 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. for the purpose of a cleanup Kenner Day at Veterans Park in Kenner, Louisiana. I have a motion by Councilmember Segura, seconded by Councilmember Hayes. The motion is on the floor for discussion. I've received a request also, Madam Chairman, for a one-meeting deferral on this item. I'm sorry, I should have clarified that as my motion. I'm so sorry. It's a motion for a one-meeting deferral. Motion is Councilmember Segura, seconded by Councilmember Hayes. So that is the motion that's on the floor right now, one-meeting deferral.
Thank you. Councilmember Wilmot.
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to say I'm opposed to any deferrals on this matter. Kenner United was allowed to clean up the city of Kenner on 2 different occasions already without having any history of problems. We all supported it back then on both occasions, and then I support it now, and I ask my colleagues to do the same and continue without deferral. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Wilmot. Councilmember Segura.
Thank you, Council President. As Councilman Wilmot said, yes, this organization has done it twice before, and it was approved by the council. That doesn't mean that things don't come up that question and call into question that allow us to form a question. And that's where I'm at tonight with other presumably council members who have some questions relative to this organization, not specifically the cleanup endeavor, but the organization, and we would like to have had those questions answered. Is anybody here from Kenner United? Without seeing anybody here to represent them is why I'm asking for a one-meeting deferral so that we can hope to get our questions answered and then move forward with whether or not to approve their cleanup. That's the reason for my deferral.
Thank you, Councilman Segura. Councilman Carroll.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm going to be supporting my council member Wilmot with voting against the deferral. Like he said already about this organization having the opportunity for the past couple of years to do this, I think it is it's a plus. It's something that works well with the code department as it relates to the cleanup of our city that we all are trying to make better for the city of Kenner. Not knowing right now at this point what all these other issues are, I'm going to have to support this. I believe this is a deterrent in a way for organizations, even if it's not relating to the cleanup. You know, I can understand the first time we did it because it was some things that could not be mixed, and we should always vote that way. But now, not to go forward with this, I believe is something that is a slippery slope for us to be doing, and we should always support our community and going forward and cleaning things up, particularly in the city of Kenner. So I will not be supporting it. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilmember Carroll. Councilmember Wilmot.
Thank you. And I'd like to just say, too, that last meeting, we did a deferral. So we already had 2 weeks to do any background issues and look into things that we wanted to at that point. And to come back and do it again, the date supposedly of this cleanup is September 28th, which is right around the corner. So, again, I oppose any deferrals, and I ask that my colleagues do the same. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Wilmot. Councilman Segura.
If that's all, I'll be closing on it. Anybody else speaking? Or I understand. Mr. Taft, you want to speak?
Mr. Taft, would you like to speak?
My name is Greg Taft, 3720 West Loyola Drive. I'm not sure I understand why we want to remove it from the agenda. It was my understanding at the last council meeting There was a question and some differences on some postings that were made using the Kenner United logo. That, as I have seen, has come down. That logo is no longer being used for any type of post except for the cleanup. So I guess I don't understand why this is coming up and why we want to remove it, because it is a way to get some of the citizens together to help clean up some areas. It makes them feel like they're doing something good, and I don't know why you want to take that away. And I understood the last meeting why you wanted to defer it. I saw how it could appear that it was politically motivated, but that has not been the case going forward. That went down that same night, after that meeting. So I'd like to know why y'all want to kill a good thing for the city that gets citizens involved and gets people caring about what the city looks like. And that bothers me a lot. Now, I wish someone would tell me.
I'll save my comments to closing and answer those questions.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Taft.
I'm against the deferral, and I'm against removing it. I mean, I just think it's a bad thing.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Morella?
Al Morella, 4260 East Loyola Drive, 5th District, 47 years. I'm also opposed to the deferral. But I do, however, have one question. I'd like to know how long that was posted on the website with that logo before if y'all finally decided to bring it up for discussion at the last council meeting. How long was that on the computer? And I understand why you all might have a problem with this, but that's why I'm trying to find out how long was it posted before you finally decided that there was a problem with it. Because there may have been some other posts on that website also by that individual that may have prompted all of this. That's why I'm asking this question. Anybody feel free to answer.
Thank you, Mr. Morella.
Once again, I support Councilman Wilmot and Councilman Carroll. Anybody? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Morella. Councilman Segura, you can close.
Thank you. To go right to the last two questions, the first is, Mr. Morell, I don't know how long it had been there. I don't follow that site to know. It came up at that last meeting for discussion. But I will say that the reasoning was that you have a 501c3 chartered organization, which by nature shall not be political, having a logo on a site that on all means was political. That's the end of that discussion. So we just found out, we took that purpose. On Mr. Taft's comments, all this is right now is a public gathering permit to utilize Veterans Park during a certain period of hours. That's the city's park. So this is not stopping what they may want to do and can do somewhere else on that day. It just says we're deferring the decision on whether to let them use our city property on that date and time for this event. They have every possibility to go somewhere else and still hold their event. This is not, the discussion on the deferral is not to stop the event. It's just to get questions answered that have popped up that, yeah, last meeting were the political aspect, and now some other questions that we were hoping and believing that a representative based on the last deferral would come tonight and be available to answer. But without seeing anybody here to answer, we don't have the answer to those questions, so we could move forward to approve or not approve. So again, this is not to stop the cleanup. The organization and the members are free to go anywhere else on that day to do their meet, whatever they do, just not in city property of Veterans Park. So don't take it that this is a strike against the cleanup. There's plenty of other places that they can meet and still put on their program and do cleanup. Just, we got to be concerned about utilizing city property until we get these questions answered, and that is the reason for my deferral tonight, to hopefully get the questions answered. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Segura. Actually, Councilmember Wilmot would like to speak as well.
Well, then I'll come back with another closing, I guess.
Okay.
I'm sure.
I had a question from legal. If you can tell me on public gathering permits, if this permits or doesn't permit, if they not granted, you can have individuals do it independently, but isn't there a number of members that can be in that group before you have to get a permit?
The public gathering permit is required for any gathering that is expected to have 100 or more people. So if you have less than 100 people, there isn't even a public gathering permit that is required.
Okay, that's all I want to know. So if this group would happen to have more than 100, then they would be required to get a permit, correct?
I'm sorry?
If there was 100 or more, then they would be required to get a permit. Is that correct?
In order to use city property, yes. To gather on city property, you are correct.
Thank you. That's all.
Thank you, Councilman Wilmot. Councilman Segura.
Again, for closing, just to clarify, this is not trying to stop. If the contention is they have less than 100 people and the city is still good with them utilizing our property, is that what you're saying, Mr. City Attorney?
All I was saying is that they're only required to get a permit, the public gathering permit, if they have 100 or more people.
All right, what happens if they have less? They can just show up there and do what they want to do, provided it's not rented out in other
Provided
fashion?
it's not rented out, provided they're not breaking any other law. You can have a gathering of people on city property for almost any reason you want, as long as it's not, as long as you're not breaking any laws, and you're not required to get a public gathering permit if you have less than 100 people expected to be in any one location. The idea is that when you're getting to that number, it creates potential issues that the police have to look at for safety and things of that nature.
Sure. Thank you, and I agree with that, and that's why I've said there is no problem if a smaller group shows up on city park property to have whatever purpose that is presumably okay. They just caution, we may have rentals there that already have spots rented out, so they cannot impugn on those properties, correct?
The people who, yes, you are correct. If somebody has rented one of the pavilions or things of that nature, since they have rented it, they have the rights to it for the time of the rental.
Okay, so again, this doesn't say they cannot hold their gathering. This just says we're anticipating if they ask for a public gathering permit, that they're having over 100 people, and this is the process to ensure that that event is safely administered on our public property. So with that, again, I'm asking for a one-meeting deferral to get questions answered on the organization. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Segura.
Council members, please vote on a one-meeting deferral. Madam President, motion passes 5-2. Council members Wilmot and Carroll opposed. Under the consent agenda, we have item 1, approval of minutes, the regular council meeting of August 23rd, 2019. Item 2 is approval of alcoholic beverage permit applications. Item 2A is a resolution granting an alcoholic beverage permit to Gala Music Foundation on September 15, 2019 at Kenner Heritage Park, 303 Williams Boulevard, being property owned by the city of Kenner in Kenner, Louisiana. Item 2B is a resolution granting an alcoholic beverage permit to Divine Mercy Catholic Church on October 11, 2019, October 12, 2019, and October 13, 2019 at 4337 Salentini Parkway in Kenner, Louisiana. Item 3 is approval of bingo and public gathering applications. Item 3A was taken a few minutes ago. Item 3B was application number 2182-19, Our Lady of Perpetual Help Catholic Church, to hold a public gathering on October 6, 2019, from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. for the purpose of a St. Rosalie procession at 1908 Short Street in Kenner, Louisiana. Item 3C is application number 2183-19, Gala Music Foundation, to hold a public gathering on September 15, 2019, from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. for the purpose of a Kenner Belated Annual Fest at the Kenner Heritage Park. Item 3D is application number 2184-19, Porch and Patio Wine and Beer Garden, to hold a public gathering on September 13, 2019, from 3 p.m. to 12 a.m. for the purpose of a one-year grand opening at 512 Williams Boulevard. Item 3E is application number 2185-19, Divine Mercy Catholic Church, to hold a public gathering on October 11th, 12th, and 13th, 2019, from 5 p.m. to 11 p.m. on Friday, Saturday from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., on Sunday from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. for the purpose of an annual seafood festival at Divine Mercy Catholic Church at 4337 Salentini Parkway. Item 4 is correspondence reports from the mayor, CAO, or department heads. Item 4A, at the request of the administration, a report from Mayor Zahn.
Mayor Zahn.
Thank you, Council President. Have a few things to go over. We had a busy weekend on Sunday with Freedom Fest. They're estimating the crowds anywhere throughout the day, 15 to 20,000 people, because what we have is we have those shuttle buses continuously moving back and forth, ushering people to the event and then bringing them back to the parking lot. So I want to thank all the people that were there, all the people that attended, also our parkways, our recreation, our public works, our general services groups, everyone who did that. We're going to have a little catch-up meeting tomorrow to get some input from that field crew to see how it went and see what we can do better for next year. This has been the third event. The Friends of Rivertown and Visit Kenner, my administration, number of the council, I think all the council attended, and some council actually helped with this event. So we appreciate your sponsorship. We appreciate you being part of it. And look, like Councilman Brannigan has posted, it's only good if we all come together and make it like this, and it has been a good event, and I think he thanked also the people for being there. We also announced at that event, Arena Football had contacted us last week. We could not say anything until that event because I did not know myself that they had signed a contract with the Arena Football League. So Mr. Joe Epstein met with us last week. He's been contacting Charles with KTV and also Recreation, Chad Pitfield, to do something here that's different. The way it'll be set up is still in the works, but we know that they have a contract signed. Hopefully that will start in the spring of 2020. If not, then we'll catch the next season. But I have a good, strong feeling that we will see it here in the spring of 2020. That's something we've never had before, something that's ever happened in this market. Another good thing is it'll be called the Crescent City Crew. So, you know, can't get the Kenner name on there, but we're not New Orleans, so they decided to go with the Crescent City Crew here from the city of Kenner. Father Paul also talked about, a number of us, I think Councilman Hayes and Councilman Brennan Brannigan and myself and also the fire chief attended the dedication of St. Elizabeth Ann Seton School in District 5, Councilman Brennan's district. It was a lovely event, and look, I told the whole group, you know, this is important to the city of Kenner, to me and to the council, and also our chief of police and our fire chief, because this is what we can brag about. We can brag about that school being opened. It attracts more families. It attracts people to our city, along with the other school that will be opening, Kenner Discovery, down the street, and all of our schools. As our schools continue to prosper and we build new schools like this, these two, you're going to get more people moving into the city of Kenner. So I'm very excited about that. And thank you all for attending. One last thing is some more good news. The fire retirement system refunding of $1,750,000 is now complete. We are able to refund the loan at a rate of 2.97% interest, down from the original 7%. The reduction of the interest will save the taxpayers a total of $322,000. This was not an additional debt that we incurred by the city. It's simply a refinance of the existing debt. That is good news. And I know Councilman Hayes had some comments about that, because that, I got to say, that's the work of our finance director, Mr. Director Mike Wetzel. So we appreciate Mike, what you did on that. And again, I appreciate the administration for working on that and also the city council for your support on it. So these are the things that we are doing throughout the city and making the city and the taxpayers a little more whole and giving some money back. That's some money that we can use, like Councilman Hayes said, maybe might use in a certain project or some other projects that we can do throughout the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Zahn. Councilmember Segur.
Mayor, you made the comment that, the Crescent City Crew is the new name, but unfortunately, we couldn't get Kenner in there. Well, not to contradict you, but Kenner will be there every time it's marketed. They have to know to come to Kenner.
Right.
So any marketing done to say, come to this arena game, will say, come to Kenner.
In the city of Kenner.
Yes.
Exactly.
So we'll
push it.
We'll push it.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Segur.
Yes, ma'am. I have a motion by Councilmember Wilmot, seconded by Councilmember Hayes on the consent agenda. Councilmembers?
Actually, that was corrected. Councilmember McKinney is going to be the motion, so I'm going to be motioning and seconded by Councilmember Hayes. I apologize.
No problem. Motion by Councilmember McKinney, seconded by Councilmember Hayes on the consent agenda. Councilmembers, please vote. Motion passes 7-0. Under the public appearance agenda, we have item 9, public hearings for final passage. Item 9A is a public hearing regarding resolution number B 17020, a resolution calling a public hearing to determine whether the structure is located at 3040 Marietta Street, Kenner, Louisiana, shall be abated by repair, rehabilitation, demolition, or removal.
Motion by Councilmember Carroll, seconded by Councilmember McKinney to open public hearing. Council members, please vote.
Motion passes 7-0. We have a presentation this evening from the Code Enforcement Director.
Good evening. The structure in question is a pile-supported slab structure bearing a municipal address of 3038 Marietta Street. The property is owned by Mr. and Mrs. Ernest Scott Sr. In March of 2019, it was determined that the property was unsafe and dangerous under the building codes of the city of Kenner. A letter was received by the property owners via certified mail advising them of the violations. On April the 8th of 2019, my office received a call from Ms. Lewis to discuss the violations on her property. At that time, she said her husband had taken ill and that they were without financial means to repair or demolish the structure. Mr. and Ms. Ernest Scott Sr. was sent a notice to appear before the City Council, which was signed. The city also contacted the services of an engineer, and it is noted in a report by the engineer retained by the City of Kenner who provided the following reasons: inadequate maintenance, dilapidation, and abandonment. The electrical services are discontinued. Numerous sections of soffit and fascia are damaged. The rear storage area is partially collapsed. Section of the exterior siding are missing from the rear of the structure. There are also seven severe termite damage sections of the structure. Portions of the roof sheeting and framing are missing and damaged at the rear of the structure. The roof structure has been improperly extended at the front of the structure, which is causing a severe sag. Water damage and rot are occurring where the original roof structure and the extension met. Based on the visual observation, the rear addition is substantially compromised and in immediate danger of collapse. Furthermore, the front addition should be properly shored, supported, where the roof addition to the front was built. The remainder of the structure is a serious public hazard, and we recommend that city take the necessary steps to declare it a public nuisance and have it abated by demolition. This is an area in Lincoln Manor that we've been hitting hard with code sweeps, and we're making a big difference there. There's a lot of new houses going up, and I think that this structure is the worst structure there that's left. I mean, we have some issues there, but we're working on it constantly, and this is the worst one. I would hope that you guys would vote to have this structure taken down tonight. Thank you.
Sir, would you like to?
No, there's no curator.
Good evening. I'm Randolph Scott. My father is Ernest Scott Sr., and on the structure of the home and the repairs or whatever, city kind of saying it's beyond repair, right? Okay, as it was being repaired at the time that the code enforcement was doing their job, it was being repaired. So at another time, you all sent energy out to disconnect the electricity. Why was that? And the house was being repaired at the time. I mean, he's retired, he's old, his wife is old. And after that, I mean, once y'all sent out energy to disconnect the electricity as the house was being repaired, what more could he have done?
Unfortunately, sir, I have to accept full responsibility. Once I note that a structure is in serious danger, I'm actually responsible. The city of Kenner holds a certain responsibility, but I'm really the one that's responsible, and I hold a lot of liability. And I'm not going to put any of my licenses on the line with an unsafe structure that is in deplorable condition. If somebody was to die in that structure, they're coming right for me. If that structure needs to come down, we gave you plenty enough time to repair it. If you want to do something different, you're more than welcome to come meet with my department and me, and we'll do whatever we can to help you out. But at this time, we're going to ask the council to put it on the demolition list, and if something was to happen and you can come up with, show us the appropriate funds to repair it and the means to repair it, we'll be more than happy to take it off the demo list. But tonight, I'm asking the council to take this house down. It's a nuisance, it's a public hazard, and we're making progress in your neighborhood, and I know you really appreciate what we're doing in your neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Councilman Carroll,
Mr. Scott, could you come back 5 minutes, please? Thank you, Madam President. Hello, Mr. Scott. Nice seeing you.
You done?
As the director said, as far as the opportunity now going forward to be able to help you further structure, is there a plan or funding in place either to knock down or to rebuild that you guys have come up with? And if so, what time frame would that be?
At this time, I couldn't answer that. I have to discuss these terms with my father to see what he has in plan. So, I mean, I really couldn't answer that at the time.
Well, just based on where we see today, the director, he's going to need a time frame. You're going to have to talk to him. You know, we can give 30 days. I could ask for 30 days to come up with a plan, ask the director if he's comfortable with that, or 2 weeks. But we have to have some type of plan because, as you can see, it is.
I do understand that.
You understand that, and I know you do, and we appreciate that.
I do understand that. But in the meantime, at the time, it was under repair.
Yeah, I don't, like I said, not to go back to that, and I'm not sure all the circumstances with that, and not because that's not really where we're at right now.
Okay, I
where we're at
understand
right
that too.
now to be able to go forward if we can, but there have to be some type of finance, some type of plan to even halt what we are about to do. So that is something you have to speak. If he can agree to for you to meet with him within the next 17 days, I'm going to say, to come up with a plan. If not, you know, we're going to vote today to move forward.
Right.
But within that time frame, 17 days, you're going to have to meet with the director and have the confidence that this structure will be either demolished or repaired.
Right, I understand that.
And if that is something that you understand and you can agree with that, that's fair.
I can agree with that.
So, Mr. Director, based on my comments, based on having the 17 days that we normally have, if he can meet with you in your department to come up with a plan and a financial situation that you guys are comfortable with, would you be able to give that time frame with this structure?
Councilman Carroll, our department works with everybody. We try to find a way to say yes and never to say no. Sometimes it's hard to do. But I can assure you, I'm going to look in and tell you right now, that structure is beyond repair. But I will give him the 17 days. I don't want to take it off the off the hands of the council tonight. I want to move forward, and because I don't think once he starts looking into what's involved in repairing the structure, it's too much.
I agree.
It's beyond.
I agree, and thank you for your comments. And we always, you know, this is the opportunity for us to talk about it, to talk to the family members, to do that. I also agree by looking at the picture that it is in a position, but it may be an opportunity for them to come up with a plan as opposed to the city funding it and to demolish it. And there's always a cost, what we're talking about, that's a little less sometimes if the family can. And we always support with that too if we can. So Mr. Scott and his family, if we can get that time frame within that time, let's go forward. But within that time frame, it has to have some kind of plan that you agree with. If not, we move forward with it.
I guarantee I will give him every effort, every support, every bit of support I can to help him come up with a plan.
So my motion is, and the attorney can help me, what's the longest, can we give 17 days? Is that legal? Is that normal? I guess help me out here with the time length to give Mr. Scott a chance to speak with the director on this.
You could amend to put the time delay in that you want, so 17 days would not be an appropriate time if you choose to do so.
Yes, I mean, 17 days I think is fair. Mr. Scott agreed with me that that's fair. So I motion to extend it to go forward with it, but to give him 17 days to meet with the code department to come up with a plan either to demolish it or whatever else that may come up with. So, and I ask for my colleague's support.
That's fine.
Thank you, Mr. Scott.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Scott. Mr. Scott, I have one more question. Do your parents live currently in the house, or is it unoccupied at this point?
They don't live there.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, like I said, it was under repair at the time.
Okay.
You know.
And when you say under repair, do you? I mean,
was
they were
what
they were
code
making some
has-
changes
Thank you.
or updates to it. So you're aware. Everyone is aware that they need to make changes to the property.
Right.
Correct. Okay. Okay. Thank you. I just
Thank you
wanted to
very
make that clarification. Thank you.
No further discussion, council members? Please vote to close your hearing.
Time before we vote on this, can we defer it to the next meeting? And then at that meeting, which will be, 2 weeks.
I would recommend, the clerk's recommendation would be to just put the time in place in your legislation. Let's go ahead with the advertisement of the legislation, put that in place, and then we would move from there, because you would delay all your advertisements, you would delay with code
Okay,
enforcement.
we don't want to do that.
Right.
Okay, so
I
originally
would
what
go ahead with your motion as you have it
okay,
in place right now.
thank you,
Is that okay, James?
thank you. Thank you, Madam President.
Okay. Thank you. Motion by council member. Do we have to?
Yes, you're voting right now to close your hearing, council members.
Yes. Motion by Councilmember Carroll, seconded by Councilmember Kinney to close the public hearing. Council members, please vote.
Motion passes 7-0.
Motion by Councilmember Carroll, seconded by Councilmember Kinney to approve with amendments. Council members, please vote.
Motion passes 7-0. Item 9B is a public hearing regarding summary ordinance number 12,584. An ordinance authorizing a public hearing to approve the proposed amendments to fiscal years 2011, 2012, 2013, and 2014 annual action plans of the City of Kenner Home Investment Partnership Act Home Grant for the Department of Community Development.
Motion by Councilmember Segura, seconded by Councilmember Carroll to open public hearings. Council members, please vote.
Motion passes 7-0.
Would anyone like to approach?
Good evening, Tamithia Shaw, Director of Community Development. This request is coming to amend previous action plans passed by the council so that we can adhere to our requirement to enter into an agreement with the CHODO. The City of Kenner is a member of the Jefferson Home Consortium. Communities that don't qualify for an individual allocation of home dollars enter into a consortium. That consortium consists of Jefferson Parish, the City of Kenner, and St. Charles Parish, because it has to be contiguous areas. As we move forward with the Parish of Jefferson, our requirement is going to be to enter into an agreement with the CHODO. CHODO is a community housing development organization. It is a nonprofit group that meets certain legal requirements, And it meets our 15% requirement of our allocation, which is the $254,000. We have a deadline, of October 31st, 2019 for the consortium, and this is going to be our requirement to meet as we move forward. So that's why we're asking for an amendment to the previous action plans. Do you have any questions?
Councilman Wilmot.
Thank you for coming, Ms. Shaw, and explaining this. I'm just curious to know why we're amending fiscal years 11, 12, 13, and 14 of the action plans and none more recent.
Because we have a 2014 disbursement deadline. Under HUD funding for this particular funding of the home, you have 4 years because they don't give you big allocations of funding. So most consortiums put together projects over a 4-year period. So we're taking all of those previous funds to put under for we can meet our disbursement deadline of October 31st.
Okay, so that's accurate then, 11, 12, 13, and 14.
That's correct.
Okay. That's all I have. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Shaw.
Thank you,
Any other
Councilmember Wilmot.
questions?
Councilmember Carroll.
The previous years and that. Now, that has also been a concern that particularly I've had with Ms. Fauché, that we don't want to put ourselves in a position where we don't have these funds. And I think we're doing a good job of catching up to the point where now we won't lag anymore with that opportunity. So we're catching up. I think we're at a position now going forward where we won't have to even worry about that anymore. And if you can just give us a brief catching us up on where we are now as far as it relates to deadlines for this particular.
Well, this particular deadline for the home is October 31st, and it's imposed upon all of the communities inside of the consortium. We have another deadline in April. It's always April 30th to meet a timeliness test to see how we're doing in spending our funds in CDBG. We do have a project now in place for the Council on Aging improvements. So we hope to be finished with those improvements by that time. Because the city is responsible for administering those funds, we have to make sure we're always in compliance with HUD's rules, because it's not the city of Kenner's funding, it is HUD's funding for us to administer and be in compliance. So we have a plan moving forward to make sure if we find that we're not going to meet the deadline, if the building can't, because it's a building and we all know there can be change orders, there can be things that delay, weather, anything. If we find that we're not going to be able to meet that deadline, we'll come back before you earlier than that time, council, to make changes to make sure that we meet our deadlines now.
Yes, thank you. And that's exactly where we want to be. If there's something that we can see, you guys will see, then we need to address it to ensure that we don't fall into that area.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilman Carroll.
Anything else?
Any other questions from the audience? Okay.
This is in concert with 15A, so once you approve this measure, 15A is just moving to approve a contract with the Choto to acquire property. It's going to be the first phase. We can meet that. We are assured that we can meet the deadline. We have some members from New Hope that are here. Unfortunately, Pastor Mitchell had another engagement. He's the executive director of the New Hope Choto, but he had to leave. But like I said, 15A is just going to, now that you're, we hope that you pass this ordinance, then we're going to move to enter into an agreement with them so that we can meet our deadline in time.
Okay, thank you. This is not changing, so the years after, so 2015 and on, they're not altering that?
No, this does not change those action plans.
Okay, great, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Motion by Councilmember Segura, seconded by Council, would you like to speak, ma'am? I'm sorry. Please state your name and your address.
My name is Anna Franklin. My address is 2733 Tifton Street in Kenner, and I'm representing the New Hope Community Corporation that we have. Like as she said, Ms. Shaw, Pastor had previous engagement and that he wasn't able to stay. But we just wanted to come to let you know that we are so grateful and thankful that and to thank the mayor, City of Kenner, and Ms. Shaw for thinking of our organization to give us that opportunity to make and build better home and living conditions for everyone that's in Kenner. So he didn't want to leave without, us saying something, for that. But we do, and we appreciate it very, very much. And it's so much, it's so feeling that it's kind of really just hard to say that it is something that we have looked for and wanted to do, because we can save our communities, and we can save the homes here and make everything better for everybody else. All we have to do is unite, and that is our plan to do that. And, we just want to continue to thank you for everything that you have done for us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Motion by Councilmember Segura, seconded by Councilmember Carroll to close public hearing. Council members, please vote.
Motion passes 7-0.
Motion by Councilmember Segura, seconded by Councilmember Carroll to approve. Council members, please vote.
Motion passes 7-0. Item 10 is opening of bids. We have none. Item 11 is reclassification of zoning for final passage. We have none. Item 12 is other ordinances for final passage. We have none. Item 13 is resolutions and motions by council members. Item 13A is a resolution authorizing the placement of temporary signs on Kenner public property, advertising Kenner Cleanup Day, hosted by Kenner United Incorporated. Madam Chairman, I've received a request for a one-meeting deferral. Councilmember Segura, seconded by Councilmember Hayes, for a one-meeting deferral. No discussion? Council members, please.
Oh, no, Councilman Segura.
Just goes along with the previous thing we deferred. It's just all part of the package.
Anyone else? Okay. Council members, please vote for the deferral.
Madam President, motion passes 5-2. Council members Wilmot and Carroll are opposed. Item 13B is a resolution authorizing the placement of temporary signs on public property for Kenner North Kiwanis Club.
Motion by Councilmember McKinney, seconded by Councilmember Brennan to approve. Council members, please vote.
Motion passes 7-0. Item 14 is items removed from the consent agenda. We took item 3A earlier in the meeting. Item 15 is acceptance of contracts and similar matters approved by the mayor. Item 15A is summary ordinance number 12,585, an ordinance authorizing a community housing development organization, CHDO, agreement between the City of Kenner and New Hope Community Development Corporation to acquire, rehabilitate, and sell, lease 3 housing units in the City of Kenner using Home Investment Partnership Act home grant.
Motion by Councilmember Carroll, seconded by Councilmember Segura to approve. Council members, please vote.
Motion passes 7-0. Item 15B is summary ordinance number 12,586, an ordinance accepting the bid received from Ellis Company LLC to furnish and install new modern shade cover at Erlanger Tot Lot in accordance with seal bid number 19-6482 and an amount not to exceed $48,000 for the Department of Parks and Recreation.
Motion by Councilmember Hayes, seconded by Councilmember McKinney to approve. Council members, please vote.
Motion passes 7-0. Item 15C is summary ordinance number 12,587, an ordinance accepting the lowest responsive bid received from Geo Surfaces Incorporated to remove and resurface track at Musbertolino Stadium in accordance with letter bid number 19-6487 and an amount not to exceed $147,000 for the Department of Parks and Recreation.
Excuse me. Motion by Councilmember Brannigan, seconded by Councilmember McKinney to approve. Council members, please vote. One vote pending.
Motion passes 7-0. Item 15D is summary ordinance number 12,588, an ordinance ratifying the purchase and installation of column pads at the Esplanade Recreation Facility in the amount of $7,108 by Han Enterprises Incorporated for the Department of Parks and Recreation.
Motion by Councilmember Brannigan, seconded by Councilmember Wilmot to approve. Oh, I apologize. Councilmember Wilmot.
Thank you, Madam President. I just had some questions for Chad, if he's, yeah, good. And I think this has been a series of things that we've actually installed at this facility. We had, I think, some flooring, mirrors, and now these column pads. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct. These pads were initially purchased with the furnish alone. Because of the delay of them coming in, once they arrived, that same day was the same day we were starting cheer camp. And these column pads actually cover steel I-beams, where if a child would have struck that, it could have caused some significant injury. So at that point, I made the decision to go forward with having the company install them when they were arrived to keep any children from getting hurt.
And how's it been as far as attendance at this facility?
Phenomenal. Actually, we've seen a tremendous increase. We've actually added classes. We still have some people on wait list. We're actually trying to get some more instructors to get the instructors' time. But we have already added classes, and we're getting huge rave reviews of that facility.
So the fees that are being generated are actually covering the cost for anything that we have along these lines. Is that correct?
And some.
And some. Beautiful. All right, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Wilmot. Councilman Carroll.
Thank you, Madam President. And Mr. Director, as it relates to, and this is part of all of the questions as it has been relating to the equipment there, this particular product can be moved if we have to somewhere else in the city of Kenton to support a safety structure.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilmember. Motion by Councilmember Brannigan, seconded by Councilmember Wilmot to approve. Councilmembers, please vote.
Motion passes 7-0. Item 15E is summary ordinance number 12,589, an ordinance authorizing the purchase of one John Deere HPX 815E MY19 utility vehicle from John Deere Company in the amount of $10,590.66, utilizing the State of Louisiana contract number 44000171193 for the Department of General Services.
Motion by Councilmember Brennan, seconded by Councilmember Hayes to approve. Councilmembers, please vote.
Motion passes 7-0. Item 15F is summary ordinance number 12,590, an ordinance authorizing the utilization of existing Jefferson Parish contract number 55-17680 with Air Nuke Incorporation to purchase air conditioning filters as needed in an amount not to exceed $45,000 annually for the City of Kenner Department of General Services.
Motion by Councilmember Segura, seconded by Councilmember Brennan to approve. Councilmembers, please vote.
Motion passes 7-0. Item 15G is summary ordinance number 12,591, an ordinance authorizing the utilization of state contract number 44000016237 with United Rentals North America Incorporated for rental, construction, maintenance equipment, generators, and other related equipment on the state contract in an amount not to exceed $75,000 annually on an as-needed basis for the City of Kenner Department of General Services.
Motion by Councilmember Brennan, seconded by Councilmember Brannigan to approve. Councilmembers, please vote.
Motion passes 7-0. Item 16 is ordinances and resolutions in summary for first reading. Item 16A is an ordinance amending Section 15-23B of the Code of Ordinances, City of Kenner, Louisiana, by adding thereto a certain one-way traffic control on Sunset Boulevard between East Loyola Drive and Old Miss Drive, indicating one-way traffic on Sunset Boulevard in a westerly direction. Item 16B is an ordinance to amend Article 5 definitions, Article 6 zoning, and Article 12 supplementary use and performance standards of the Unified Development Code for the City of Kenner and Chapter 10 licenses and taxation of the Kenner Code of Ordinances to promote the health, safety, and general welfare by establishing where short-term rental is appropriate and definitions, standards, and licensing requirements for short-term rental establishments and providing for related matters, including enforcement provisions to address violations. Item 16C is an ordinance amending ordinance number 11,062. adopted by the City of Kenner, Louisiana on March 17, 2016, entitled Unified Development Code of the City of Kenner, Louisiana, more particularly amending and rezoning parcel D4 through A3 Highway Park subdivision from C2 General Commercial to LD Laketown District, and directing, authorizing, and empowering the planning director for the City of Kenner to alter and amend the official zoning map of the City of Kenner. Item 16D is an ordinance to amend Article 5 definitions and Article 6 zoning to establish a definition for animal shelter and to further establish animal shelter as a conditional use in single-family residential, two-family residential, three- and four-family residential, multifamily, industrial, and commercial zoning districts within the City of Kenner. Item 16E is an ordinance approving the sale of a 12,490.34 square foot portion of unimproved property and a 14,634.97 square foot portion of unimproved property, both located in Square 95, Kenner Orchid subdivision. Item 16F is an ordinance approving a general advertising sign and a LI Light Industrial Zoning District for Maymar Engineering and Contractors, LLC, doing business as Evergreen Media on lots 38, Square 216, Bainbridge Office and Industrial Park subdivision. Item 16G is an ordinance approving the plan of re-subdivision of ARPANT lots 134, 135, 136, 169, 170, 171, 180, 181, 182, 183, 216, 217, 218, 219, portions of ARPANT lots 124, 125 to 126, 127, 132, 133, 172, 173, 179, 220, and 221, the front part of Lot 4 and the revoked portions of Perry Street, Scott Street, and Franklin Street, Old Kenner subdivision. Kenner into lots 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, Old Kenner subdivision. Item 16H is an ordinance approving the plan of re-subdivision of lots C1, A1, University City subdivision into lots C2, A2, and C2, B2, University City subdivision, Kenner Jefferson Parish, Louisiana, which lots are owned by Parameter Kenner Realty, LLC. Item 16I is an ordinance approving the plan of re-subdivision of lots D1, Canes Brule subdivision, into lots D1A and D1B, Canes Brule subdivision, which lot is owned by Esplanade Mall Realty Holding, LLC. Item 17 is reports from the council and/or special committees. We have none. Item 18 is new business. We have none. Item 19 is unfinished business and motions to reconsider or remove from a tabled position. Seeing none. Item 20 is persons wishing to address the council on special subject matters.
Miss Dolores Windsor, please approach and state your name and address.
Actually, my name is Vachrak Hawajiku. I live on 528 27th Street since 1979. I'm here actually to ask a question because last couple of weeks, I've been trimming the trees, from the along the side of the house, and then I was piling up in the front of the house. Now, for the past 40 years, it's been picking up without calling anybody. But for the last week or so, nothing ever happened. No one picked it up. I did several calls. No one can give me the definite answer whether they're going to pick it up or not going to pick it up. So I'm here to address this and ask a question. If anybody knows, if Bromley automatically going to pick it up or what I have to do with it, because in the past 40 years, I did put up the tree limbs in front of the house a few times, and every time it's been picked up without any questioning or without any problem. So that's a question I need to ask the committee.
Thank you, sir. Director Mohammed?
If you would like to meet with me after this council meeting, I'll be more than happy to meet with you, and we'll go over some of the issues that you have, and then we'll address it.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you. I'll wait for you.
Thank you.
Ms. Windsor?
Good evening, everyone. Dolores Windsor, 1521 Mayfield Street, Kenner, Louisiana. I'm here to thank Mr. Muhammad and the code enforcement workers and the mayor for a great job they have been doing in Lincoln Manor. We appreciate it very, very much. We have come a long way, but we have much further to go. And I'm asking you to work with us, please, sir, to work with us to get it settled in Lincoln Manor. So thank you so very much. Bless you.
Thank you, Ms. Windsor. Appreciate it. Mr. Merla, please state your name and address.
Al Morella, 4260 East Loyola Drive, 5th District, 47 years. The actions of this council and this administration at the last council meeting during the public comment portion, I find totally unacceptable. And I want to direct this to you, Ed Rapier. One thing you ought to know, the more adversity somebody throws at me, the more motivated I become. So you might want to remember that. Now I want to direct this to you, Mayor. You like to talk about the tax, sales tax all the time. We just had an AKC dog show at the Pontchartrain Center. We just wrapped up filming a movie in the city of Kenner. So when this information becomes available to you as to what kind of revenues were generated to the city, I'd like to know when you get that information available. Now, I'm not yielding my time, so anybody got any comments, any questions for me? Thank you. All right, Mayor. You want to comment? I'm through.
Thank you, Mr. Morella.
What happens is it comes out in the sales tax report that I give every 2 or 3 meetings. So we won't be able to break it down for you specifically on those events. We've told you that before. So when we give the sales tax report, you'll see that the sales tax is either going up from all the events, which, knock on wood, it has been continuously going up. So I think you see that anything we're bringing to the city of Kenner is bringing those sales tax up, and hopefully continues to do that.
Okay, anybody else? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Morella. I would like to call Mr. Cure, Mr. Bobby Cure. Please state your name and your address. You have 3 minutes, sir.
Bobby Cure, 2240 Delaware. I was asking about the short-term rentals situation that's coming up, and if there's any kind of way that we can grandfather in the people who have been doing it. I've been doing it for 2 years. I've had no complaints. My neighbors don't complain. No police calls. Makes money for the parish without the parish having to do anything. I know y'all gonna, from what I read, say it's okay to do in R2 and commercial zoning places, but that cuts out the little guy like me that owns their own house, and it brings in the corporations. They can go buy a whole apartment building and make it all Airbnb. So I would ask that y'all would think about the little guy and maybe amend the thing to people who have done it that don't have any kind of problems with it, that we could let them do it in R1. Airbnb vets all of the people that come in. They have their ID, their address, credit card numbers. They're all done, the company does all of that. So I don't think it's a problem with worrying about who's coming in next to you. So that's what I'd like to ask. If y'all could possibly bend the amendment, make an amendment to it where we could get the little guy who's been doing it. I mean, it'll be cutting me out of my retirement income. No, that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Cure.
Okay, any questions?
I don't think so. Thanks. Next, Jai Dwayne Elfich. Please approach, state your name and address. Thank you. You have 3 minutes.
Hey everybody, I'm J.L. Faye. I'm an actor in New Orleans and throughout the city. But I had a few different things I wanted to come here for. I'm a little ill prepared. I heard about the meeting kind of late, so I thank everybody. I just observed this time. Mayor Zahn, do we have a mascot for the arena football team yet? Do we have a mascot yet for that arena thing that's coming through?
If you could finish all your comments, and then we'll answer any questions that you
All right. I'm gonna hold the rest of it till we have the next meeting in 2 weeks.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor Zahn, do you have?
That would obviously be up to the owner. That's not something that the city of Kenner, the city of Kenner doesn't take
You
on
can
the cost.
suggest Captain Clean, though, right?
Captain Clean belongs to the city. We don't influence the owner, so the owner has to do what he has to do.
Okay.
It'll be his choice.
Thank you. Mr. Teft? Oh, I'm sorry, Councilman Carroll.
Yeah, I'm curious to, sir, if you can come back up and ask why you asked that question as to the mascot. What is it about that you wanted to know, and if you wanted to offer some information about that, I'm curious to know.
Excuse me. Well, I just now found out about it. I mean, I'll just when he mentioned it, it just was I felt like it'd have been an opportunity to try to collaborate with him, since we're gonna be hosting all of this. I mean, anything that comes from it, we should be getting a cut of it as a city for our development. And I mean, I just think it's a great opportunity. I actually deal with people with other charities. I mean, I run several charities, but I mean, I deal with some individuals that's into arena football, and it's been a thriving thing. Some people benefit from it. I mean, just like the Pelicans and the Zephyr. So that's just what I wanted to. I figured we should try to get in there some kind of way to get some kind of acknowledgement directly to Kenner, other than the location. Instead of us just hosting it, we should be getting a large portion of whatever comes of it. We should be completely involved in any way, shape, or form. I mean,
those are some good comments, and I think, as we know, most sporting organizations, most sporting teams, lots of times they open it up to the public to decide what the mascot's going to be. I'm not sure if they've done that, but that could be something. I mean, if we're able to get some information and pass on to you, for you to seek them out and talk to them, that is something that you can do on your own to figure out. And we will find out if there is a name and eventually pass this on to the public. So if that's something that you would like to get, or do you have it?
yes, but I'll reserve everything. This is my first time coming to a meeting.
Okay.
I wanted to be brief. Thank you, council members.
Okay. If you can, we'll try to get some information on the organization and share it with you. I'm gonna give you my card. If you can text me your information, and then I will give you a call.
I'm actually in touch with Kelly.
Okay, there you go. She's always ahead of me. That's right. Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilman Carroll. Thank you. Mr. Teft, please state your name and your address for the record.
My name's Greg Taft. I live at 3720 West Loyola Drive. Just a couple things. I don't know who meets with Captain Clean. I guess that's what it is, the doggy. But we need someone to get with Captain Clean, because what's happening is on the Romelli issues, there's a couple issues where they're not really picking up the trash like they're supposed to. There's been a couple instances just within the last week, one in Chateau North and one in University City, where they reached in, grabbed a bag, left the rest of the trash in there. And I was wondering if this Captain Clean could be notified of this, to go with Romelli to see if we can't take the whole trash can and empty it, and not have to run down the road to catch them, to have the trash taken out.
So you want Captain Clean to chase after the garbage?
Yeah, someone needs to talk to, Captain Clean has an in with who may have the authority to be able to correct.
I think
them just picking up
Captain Clean got a
one
promotion.
bag and leaving the rest of it in the trash is what my thinking is. Because it's becoming a little issue because, like I said, this week, Chateau North, I know of one, and University City, I know of one. So, it's obviously a problem.
Councilwoman.
Yes.
And the only other thing I want to say, and I want to reiterate this, while code enforcement's doing a good job, I still feel we need to look at, in our budget, of having additional people assigned to code enforcement that really basically has the responsibility of when they go through a neighborhood and they see things that are obvious, that they can take the time to stop without depending on sweeps. Because, I know that Mr. Muhammad's hands are tied by what the budget says. He's tied by the number of personnel he can have. But there's things that slip through the crack, and they really get ugly, and they start looking ugly. And I'm not blaming code enforcement because I think, they've done what they could under the circumstances. But I think if we added 2 people that had the ability to stop as they see things, or maybe if they have, if someone that's going to do an inspection, if they have walkie-talkies or something, I don't know what's in the trucks, that they could call the other, one of the individuals, say, hey, look, you might want to go to this street because it looks like there's a problem on it. Again, I'm not here to criticize code enforcement. I think what they, last time I checked, they had like 8 people or 8 agents that were allowed to, and you can't do inspections on permits and then try to get things done. Because if you recall, during the boat issue, me and Councilman Segura, when he was the acting mayor, we had some discussions up here at this podium because of the boats were being blamed for blight, when in reality the blight was because the things that slipped through the cracks were code enforcement issues in the first place. And the boats became the obvious, and I'm just saying, it is an issue. And I'm not criticizing code enforcement. I'm just saying, this administration look at maybe adding a couple people, and James Muhammad can tell you what he needs. I'm sure he knows what he needs out there. Not me, but, to maybe hit these things that are just slipping through.
Thank you, Mr. Taft.
That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman Brannigan.
Mr. Taft, the issue with the garbage in Chateau North, do you have the address of the property?
I have a gentleman's name that reported it.
Okay, well, I'll see you after the meeting, okay?
Yes, and regarding Ramelli, I also would like to say that we have the administration and the council has also been speaking with them and talking to the representatives, so we're aware of those issues and we're working to get those resolved going forward. So
I figured as much. It's just that it's becoming, you're starting to see it more and more. And I came from a program that says where there's smoke, there's fire.
yes,
And when you start seeing it coming up
Yep.
more and more,
yep, I agree.
and I don't know I know y'all are working on it, but the problem is, for some reason, it's not happening the way it should.
And I did actually see last week when Ramelli was doing the trash. I drive behind the trash trucks sometimes when not on purpose, get stuck. And I actually saw one of the workers, he dropped something, he picked it up. He doesn't know who I am, so it's not like he was, and then he waved to me, let me through. So I actually, give kudos to them. I know it's hot and, and I saw him doing these things. Previous weeks I hadn't, so I know that they have talked to them and I know that they are trying to be proactive. So, yes.
Yeah, like on my street, you know, where I'm at, they do a good job. They really do. But there's something that's happening in these other areas that
Yep. And I think they're aware and they're working on that. So we appreciate it.
I just want to, because I see it, I just think it needs to be in the forefront so that it can be dealt with.
Great. Thank you. Ms. Foshi?
I'm on. Hello?
It's on.
Be careful what you ask for, okay? First, I want to tell you that I appreciate you bringing this information to our attention, particularly with Ramelli. We're aware and we're working on it, but they're aware that there's issues. Captain Clean can't do much because he does not have opposable thumbs, but he can at least spread the word for you that, you know, there's... But he,
Well, that'll
turning
work.
him loose is not going to do as much good. But the real part of what I wanted to tell you is that we have, within the last month, started having interdisciplinary meetings with not just code, but code, recreation, public works, general services, and we all sit down together and say, how can we help each other and address issues? So one of the things that we're able to do is code may not be able to get out there to see everything, but when public works sees something, they let code know. So we've had a full force multiplier by setting everybody down and saying, this is your primary job, but your real job is making sure Kenner looks good, is safe, and the people's needs are taken care of. And it's a work in progress, because sometimes you get used to being in a silo, right? And they've just done a marvelous job. But we'll also be rolling out the QSend app. And what the QSend app will do will allow not only communication amongst the departments about what needs to be done, but allow you to walk out, take a picture, and hit send, and it shows up in our system and assigns it to the person who needs to be able to do it. And then we'll allow you to follow up on your request. So what it's going to do is not just give Mr. Muhammad help, it's going to turn every citizen who's interested into a junior code inspector. So we're looking forward to that opportunity, because we can't be everywhere all the time, but know that your comments are both well received and we're working on them. And just thanks for bringing that to our attention.
Mayor Zahn.
Going back to Ramelli, so when we met with Ramelli about numerous things, recycling and some other things that are coming up, I know Ramelli has met, maybe not with all the council, but most of the council. I know Councilman Brennan and I had lunch with Bob Ramelli and Nikki Nicolosi. They expressed to us, just so everyone knows out there, during the summer, no, not hard to imagine, with the heat index, there's a high turnover. And just actually, unfortunately, I don't know if this happened when we met, but right after that, right around that time, one of the hoppers actually died. So the heat makes them quit. People are going to quit because of the heat. So with that said, what you have is you have a higher turnover. So you might see some problems, some issues, I'd say issues, during the summer months. I think they're getting that under control right now. I personally have not seen it. I know there's a few comments here and there, but I mean, like you said, you don't have a problem on your street, but you see it someplace else. You're going to have isolated incidents, but I think they have gotten the, their hoppers maybe staying a little bit longer now, or the ones that are there know what to do. So maybe a little more conscientious. I know Councilwoman McKinney and I have spoken about this a couple of times, so I feel confident that they'll be able to handle it even without Captain Clean.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Taft. Councilmember Brennan.
Mayor, as far as the persons quitting there, was any of this relative to Councilwoman McKinney following them in her car and her driving habits?
Would make you quit, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seen him come in the parking lot, and it's scary.
Oh, my God.
You ever seen her drive that minivan?
Moving on. For the last, John and Norma Jaggers. Please state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes.
My name is John Jaggers, 2211 Illinois Avenue, Kenner. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. About the trash, we always leave 3 cold bottles of water and a couple of little bags of crackers and stuff, and they always pick up our trash.
So you shouldn't have to do that.
So it is very hot for them. It is.
Anyway, I'm here about the short-term rentals, and I agree with Mr. Bobby. We've been doing it for 3 years. We've never had one problem. We've talked to all our neighbors. They have no problem with it. We do it to get by. And we live on the premises. Any or all of you are welcome to come by and look at our house. It's beautiful. It's clean. We don't allow any traffic or parking in the street or anything like that. We have rules and regulations. Quiet time begins at 11. There's nothing noisy after.
No, it didn't say 11.
Huh? Ends at
Ends at
11. It starts at 11, quiet time.
Well, yeah, I'm so sorry.
At any rate,
Arguing with your wife.
No, I'm
to be
nervous.
grandfathered in would be wonderful, and we have no problem paying a fee for a license or a permit or whatever it is you might require. And that's all I got. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Y'all be
Thank you.
blessed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Motion to adjourn.